Massive news! Starfield patch 1.5 has been released. It's got everyone talking, Bethesda's back on everyone's minds, and none of that's happening. I mean, some people are talking about Bethesda because of the Oblivion remaster. Probably the only goodwill they've really had in years, I'd say. It's kind of distracted people from the disaster that was Starfield, and maybe it has some people kind of optimistic about the Elder Scrolls 6, since at least the last thing they've officially released isn't the dud that was Starfield. People are thinking about other things, even if Bethesda probably didn't have the biggest hand in the Oblivion remaster itself. It was outsourced. But I saw this pop up, Starfield patch 1.15, and the reason I'm talking about it is not because I care about Starfield, I've forgotten all about it, but it was more Bethesda's future. And the idea that this was going to be their big new IP, it was going to sit there alongside Fallout, alongside the Elder Scrolls, and build itself up, and that would be the big three IPs going forward. Doesn't seem to be panning out, because the reason this update got my curiosity is it's the first one in like 6 months that they've actually released. I had to look that up. I didn't realize that. I assumed they'd been ticking along with quality of life updates. They kept talking about developing further on the game, improvements. They did the buggy at some stage. Never bothered to re-download it and check it out. I just don't care unless they fundamentally change the game from the ground up. I don't see how it can be fun. Too many problems. But they released nothing for ages. Finally, this update. And as you'd expect, it's a big nothing. There's basically nothing new. It's just quality of life things here and there, fixing a few bugs. Really nothing of note. Nothing to the extent of the buggy or anything like that. That's got some people a little bit sad, because there's still a handful of the Starfield copers hanging about. They've reached their... A lot of them have started to get into that 1,002 hours of playtime, and they're feeling ripped off because they were promised at some point it would get fun. It's like, if you just reach this... you just need to get into the 4 to 5 figures in hours played, and things would start to get entertaining. Hasn't happened. These people are feeling a little bit of buyer's remorse. But there are certainly a lot of people who assumed that Bethesda had bigger plans, not a bug fix after 6 months, that they were going to get actual new content, that was going to be the thing, given it was meant to be their new big IP. And that wasn't just deluded expectations. This did come from Todd Howard himself. It wasn't that long ago, it was less than a year ago, that Todd Howard said that he hoped for annual Starfield story expansions for a very long time. And we talk about Todd and his lies, and you look here, politician answer almost. You go back and you realize what he was doing. Todd Howard, I know it's not an exact quote, but Todd Howard hopes for annual Starfield story expansions. So if you point the finger at him and someone gets a chance to grill him, oh no, I hoped that we would get them. I never said that we were actually developing them, and whether we were going to actually spend any more money on Starfield, why would we bother, because no one likes it, but didn't want to admit that, so back then just sold people down the garden path with the idea of annual story expansions. Sounds like a good idea. It's not going to happen, though. It's not a reality. That's how I feel about this. The whole thing about it's going to be a 10-year project, a 10-year game, like the Skyrims. That's what Todd Howard and the team said. It was here for the long haul, Starfield. I think they just said that as PR buzz at the time, and they pretty much knew after that initial reception, and when no one was investing in building mods or any of that, people just gave up on this game. Bethesda have given up on this game now. They're not going to develop anything else for it, really. I think the writing was on the wall when their Shattered Space DLC was just a giant ripoff, basically. People like myself who were dumb, we bought into the hype of Bethesda and playing previous titles, so we bought the deluxe edition where you get the free DLC. And I have a feeling that Bethesda knew no one who didn't already buy that deluxe edition was going to bother paying extra for Shattered Space when it came out, meaning they were just developing a DLC for people who'd already paid for it. And so they released the most bare bones, shortest, lacking of any content with any sort of quality to it, any soul to it. They just released the bare minimum to tick the box of saying they were going to release more content in the deluxe edition, and then they moved on, basically. That's what I think's really happened here, and that's why we're getting a bug fix after 6 months, which, understandably, it's making people a little bit upset. We go to Steam, and can you believe it? There's still people talking about Starfield somehow, myself excluded. After 7 months of radio silence, I've got to say this is quite disheartening. I'm not demanding free and new content from a single-player game, but to see that in all the time that has passed, there's not even an attempt to improve the gameplay loop. The lack of uniquely generated point of interest, the nurtured legendary system, or the ridiculous level scaling is just saddening. You kind of read that, and it's like you're basically asking for a whole new game. At some point, you just have to accept Starfield was not the game for you, it was not the game for me, it was not really the game for anyone. There's no strengths in the game. It was a pointless release, where I think it only ever sounded like a good project on paper, when they were conceiving it. I thought, what if we take all the great stuff about Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, and we take it into space with all these planets, and you can go anywhere, and that means we're not limited to one setting, like a Skyrim, where it's all snowy, maybe a little bit of forest, but that's it. We can do anything we want. Sounded fantastic. Turns out they had zero imagination, and their idea of a space universe is the most boring space universe ever conceived. There's no real aliens, aside from just useless creatures that drop items. I don't even know what those items do. I never got that far to care. But the planets, just resources, empty caves, copy and pasted. Oh, you go to one planet, and then you travel across the stratosphere to another planet, and the exact same outpost is there. It's there, one architect in space. What's going on here? It just couldn't get more boring than that. That's what they came up with. So people saying, oh, they need to go in there and fundamentally revamp things. I think they've just given up, and I can't even hold that against Bethesda. I said when Starfield came out, the best thing that they could do is to just move on. Don't delude yourself into thinking the player base, there's just a loud minority online, but secretly people are loving it. I used to see that thrown around a little bit. Just move on. Do the Elder Scrolls right, if possible. If you've got to fire half the team, I see their videos they put out. If you've got to fire the pink hairs, the blue hairs, get those people out and bring in competent people who actually have a passion for the game. Maybe people who grew up playing the Morrowinds or Oblivion when it came out or whatever. Get those people in. You've got to do it. Revamp the team if possible. But the blueprint for Starfield did not work. Just start again fresh with a new project. I said that they should do that. So I can't be upset now. I can laugh a bit about the 10-year plan not working out and being a waste of time and probably just more lies. But it is fundamentally a good thing that they're moving on and they're just forgetting this mess. Leave it to the side. Use it as a lesson of what not to do. That the Bethesda formula, it can work even in this day and age. I think the Oblivion remaster's popularity proves it. I don't think it's just nostalgia. People like the Bethesda format, the formula, but doesn't work in this sort of game with a zillion loading screens because of space and planets and this and that. It's just how to get it wrong. It all went fundamentally wrong. People who think they should fix it, just forget it. Find something else to play at this point. They're not fixing this. I'm still holding on to some hope that DLC 2 can be an honest improvement to the game. And this is why I made this video, is I don't think that there is going to be a DLC 2. I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, I think it has to get announced at some sort of Xbox showcase. Do they do one in June? I heard something about it. If it's not there, I really don't think it's happening. Because I don't think that Shattered Space was developed between Starfield coming out and when it released. It was probably already done, basically, and then they just released it a year later. The only thing to suggest there is a DLC 2, and they've been working on it the last couple of years, is maybe, as we all know, it's eventually going to come to PS5. Maybe they're actually trying to build something good to try and build some sort of momentum, and then when it launches on PS5, maybe it comes with that as well, and they're going to use that as yet another PR win, like we got with the Elder Scrolls, the Oblivion remaster, and there was all the hype and everyone talking about it because it actually just came out and we could play it. There wasn't 6 months of expectations and eventually finding things wrong with it. Like, imagine if the Body 1, Body 2 thing with Oblivion Remastered, if we learned about that 3 or 4 months before release, and then everyone's laughing at them and expecting the whole game to be filled with crap. I mean, this person here, thanks for being trans-friendly, you are the bestie devs. I mean, when you're pleasing some of these people, that's when PR can hit rock bottom. So they avoided all that by just releasing the game. Maybe if there is a DLC too, it'll be the same thing, where they announce it for PS5, it's coming out really, really soon, and then there's a whole big new DLC expansion thing in there that takes Bethesda back to their roots, and it's just one planet with handcrafted content. That's probably the best sell. The only thing that could create something for Bethesda and get people excited once again. I mean, the only time anyone's ever been excited for Starfield was before it came out, and people actually thought it might have something to it. I was one of those people. Otherwise, all a load of crap. People have certainly moved on. I don't think that's really going to happen, though. I do think that they've realized, okay, we've tanked this. Fallout 4 kind of was a hit over time to the Fallout brand. Maybe that's just me being an old man and not understanding that a lot of people did love it, and I'm stuck in the dark ages. But I still think over time that Fallout 4 wasn't actually that great for the Fallout name. It took so many of the RPG elements out. The story felt kind of watered down. It lost a lot of that tone and feel of earlier games. It was popular, but Starfield was pretty popular as well, really, if you're talking about sales numbers, and that's a new IP. It doesn't mean that there's going to be continued interest in the franchise. So I think Fallout 4, certainly Fallout 76 more so, by every metric has done more damage to that brand, but their IPs are not moving in the right direction is really the point there. So the Elder Scrolls is probably the only one that hasn't had some sort of release that wasn't a disaster. Again, Fallout 76 and Starfield and other things. So they want to get that right. For them as a studio to keep moving and being part of the elite RPG developers, where you announce and release a game and you're just going to have millions and millions of people ready to go, no matter what the product is. If Bethesda are going to stay in that category, where I think From Software is, and Larian recently came into their own in that category, there's certainly others. For Bethesda to continue that, Elder Scrolls 6, they have to get it right. It has to be incredible. I don't think it's got to do what some people say, where they've got to change engines and fundamentally just take away all their strengths. I don't think that's necessary. Again, Oblivion Remaster kind of shows that they've got a unique game design. If they take that away with another engine, and suddenly all the things that you know Bethesda for, like being able to pick up every item, little nuances, and the big world and everything like that it kind of feels handcrafted in the earlier games. I'm sure there's some procedural generation, but there's just something about their titles that grips people. If you take all that away with a new engine and other things, I don't think it's going to work out for them too well. So I think it might be all hands on deck for Elder Scrolls 6. Starfield, they've moved on. That's why that there's 7 months of radio silence, which is making some people upset. So it's either going to be the Elder Scrolls 6 at this Xbox event in June, or it could be this Starfield DLC too. I really don't think it is. I think Starfield fans are going to be highly disappointed. Development has ended. It's over. It's time to move on from Starfield, and we'll see what happens with this eventual Elder Scrolls 6. I hope there's pressure on Bethesda. I hope they have to go and bring back Jeremy Soule. They have to actually listen to the fans. They see what's been going on with Oblivion Remastered and realize, hey, people actually used to like us. Now they point the finger and laugh. We'd be the most mocked developer if it wasn't for modern day BioWare, who kind of saved us with the Veilguard, because people forgot about Starfield and the clown show that was, and everything else we've done to embarrass ourselves. Saved a little bit there. They've got a little bit of momentum. If they're going to pull any of that back, pull gamers from the mainstream back in and be this big RPG juggernaut like they were, the Elder Scrolls 6, they have to get it right. Forget about Starfield, move on. It seems like they have, and we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.